Every Sunday you see it, people slipping out right after communion, and everyone pretends not to notice. Today, I want to talk about why this happens and what it means and why it's not as simple as people think. I want you to imagine something with me for a minute. Picture yourself living 2,000 years ago. You're walking through town and you see a crowd gathering. You hear people whispering, Jesus is preaching again. So you stop, you listen, you take in his words. But maybe you've got somewhere to go. Maybe you've got a sick family member at home. Maybe you've got work to finish. Maybe you got to finish before the sun goes down. So after a few minutes, you quietly slip away. Now imagine coming back the next week and Jesus looks at you and says, you left early last time, you're not welcomed here. Does that sound like Jesus? Not even close. But I've seen priests say something very close to that. I've heard them tell the congregation, if you're planning on leaving early, you might as well leave now. And don't come if you're planning on leaving early. And I'll be honest with you, I never went back to see that priest again. Not because I was angry, not because I was offended, maybe a little bit, I just didn't understand, but because something in me said, this isn't the heart of Jesus. This is the heart of an institution. And that's where the disconnect starts. See, a priest lives a very different life than the average person sitting in the pews. And that's not their fault. It's just reality. A priest's day is built around daily mass, daily prayer, daily worship, daily meditation, spiritual readings, structured routines, and a support system that handles most of his practical parts of life. Their housing is taken care of, their cars are taken care of, their schedule is managed, their meals are often provided, their yards get mowed, their homes get cleaned, their bills are covered. And listen, I'm not saying they don't work hard. They do. They carry emotional and spiritual burdens most people never see. They deal with death, confession, counseling, loneliness, and expectations that would crush a lot of people. But their lives is not the life of the average Catholic. The average person is trying to keep their car running, trying to fix something that's broke at their house, trying to find time with their spouse, trying to raise their kids, trying to work on their jobs and overtime and pay bills and just trying to stay afloat. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes leaving mass early isn't disrespect, it's survival. Maybe they've have to get to work. Maybe they have a sick child. Maybe they're exhausted and doing the best they can. Maybe they're trying to avoid a meltdown from a toddler. Maybe they're juggling 3 responsibilities at once. And when a priest stands up there and condemns them for leaving early, it doesn't feel like Jesus. It feels like someone who doesn't understand the realities of the people they're preaching to. Jesus met people where they were. He didn't shame them for their limitations. He didn't demand perfection. He didn't say, follow me, but only if you can do it without ever slipping up. He said, come to me, all who were weary and burdened. Not come to me unless you have to leave early. And that's the part that gets me, because the church is supposed to reflect Christ. The priest is supposed to reflect Christ. But sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the church reflects rules more than it reflects mercy. And I think that's why people walk away. Not because they don't love God, not because they don't want to be there, but because they feel judged for being human. I'm not saying people should make a habit of leaving early. I'm not saying reverence doesn't matter. I'm not saying Mass shouldn't be treated casually. What I'm saying is this: if Jesus wouldn't shame someone for leaving early, maybe the church shouldn't either. Because the people sitting in those pews are not monks. They're not living in a rectory. They're not surrounded by silence and prayer all day. They're living real lives, hard lives, busy lives, messy lives. And sometimes the most faithful thing they do all week is show up at all. So if they have to slip out early, maybe instead of condemnation, they deserve a little understanding.